So today we have Steve and Sonia joining us to speak on their top 10 technology tips. They have done classes on this topic as well as shared with others. This is kind of their condensed learning applied for moms of littles and with kids. The 10 tips that they really see a lot of value in moms spending time understanding important facts and also resources that they want to share with us. So thank you, Steve and Sonia. Thank you for joining us this morning from your office, and we will hand the meeting over to you. And we thank you so much for joining us this morning.
Yeah, thank you, Steph. Sonia and I, we have two girls. One is a senior, one is in 8th grade, and a lot of these tips that we're talking about, they apply, throughout their lives, because this is something that you start habits early, and that's really what this is all about. When you are raising a family, you want to start habits that are healthy and good, and so that's really what these are. And so we have our top 10. Sonia and I are going to kind of take turns going back and forth between each of these, and we'll just run through them. So we'll go ahead, and I really want to encourage people. We'll put, there are a few resources that we're going to give as we go, and we'll put those links into the chat as we go. Nicole, do you have those links that you can put in there, or Steph, at that point? And even at the end of this, we'll make sure that those are up so that everyone has those links, because there's some pretty good websites and things that we're going to be listing. So so why don't we get into it? Number 10, we had thought about is this idea with technology can be really, really scary, and sometimes there's the temptation to just ban technology outright with kids. And really the truth is you can't do that, because we live in a technological world. We live in a place that technology is just going to be always around us. And so the best thing to do is to actually learn how to use it yourself. And because your kids are going to be technologically savvy, I'm sure many of you moms have noticed that your kids, even at the littlest age, will pick up really quickly on how a tablet works or how any of that kind of stuff works way faster than you would sometimes. And so they are growing up with technology. So the best thing for you to do is to learn its strengths and its weaknesses. And really the truth is, technology is a tool, and so you really need to learn how to use it. Most everything, the first thing you really should understand is that most technology in your house is probably connected to the internet at this point. Most of the new stuff that is coming out, there are TVs that are, you can't really buy a flat panel TV today that isn't a smart TV, and it's automatically connected. Your tablets are connected. There's refrigerators that are connected to the internet. And so your kids have the capability of connecting with online communities through pretty much everything in your house at this point, which is kind of a weird thought, but it's true. So being aware of that is important, and teaching them how to use that stuff safely is even more so important now. The best thing that you can do, and I've talked to a lot of parents about this, and they have said to me that they feel overwhelmed with the amount of devices and things and they don't know how to use it. And the best thing you can do is to educate yourself. And there are two really, really good resources, both Google and YouTube. There is absolutely zero things that you cannot find on YouTube. If you want to know how to do it, you can find it on YouTube. You can Google all sorts of stuff. And I encourage moms, absolutely, Google is your best friend. If your kids say something that you don't understand what that is, Google it and do your research, do your homework, because it will pay off big time. If you don't know what a streak is or a DM, Google it. I'll often do research on music artists or celebrities or things that my girls are talking about, so that I can be on the same page with them, and so that I can talk with other youth about these kind of things. I do the research, and I do it, when, in the late hours of the night when, nobody's around, and I'm just Googling things and learning things. And that's the best thing that you can do. There's three resources that you can use, three websites that are out there that are really, really good for this sort of thing. The first one is Common Sense Media, and it's commonsensemedia.org. That one, it's a great web resource for, there's a lot of articles, there's reviews on things, lots of helpful stuff on there. So we'll put that into chat. The second one is imdb.com. It's basically a movie database, but it does everything: movies, TV shows, games, all of those things. And it is a straight, unbiased, kind of fact-driven website that uses that helps parents see exactly what's important and what's not. And then the last one is a faith-based alternative. It's called pluggedin.com, and it's by Focus on the Family. It's basically a media review site for all sorts of stuff. And so that one's really helpful. I've used that one many times in the past. So those are great ways in which you can research things that maybe you're not sure about, different technologies. They review apps. So apps on smartphones you can always find on those. One of the things about IMDb, what was the parent section on there on IMDb? I forget what it's called, but there's a specific section on imdb.com that talks about things that parents should look out for in whatever media they're talking about, a movie or a game or something like that, which is very, very helpful. So we found that.
There's an app too, the IMDb app. So it's really easy. Just look up on your phone and find it. And it's down, if you scroll down on the website or on your app, it's called the Parents Guide. And you just go into that and it's just gives you different, it has different sections for each thing, like how mild or whatever, the different violence and drinking and drugs and that kind of thing. So it's just a good resource for a variety of things and not just movies.
One last thought on that is just be aware of how all of these devices and everything in your house can be connected to communities. And that goes for gaming consoles. So like the Xbox, the Wii, all of those things are connected to communities. And so even simple games have their own community chat functions and that sort of stuff. So you do need to be aware that that is an option that your kids can be part of. Many apps that they download have those as well, so you need to be aware. Those can be good experiences and they can be bad. It's just like any other tool that you use. You just need to be aware as a parent. So number 9.
So number 9 is to create a family media agreement, and it's a good idea for your kids, but also for you. So if you're all on the same page, you all have this agreement, and when you have tech-free zones like bedrooms or the dinner table, that you make sure that you're modeling that and you don't have your phone at the dinner table either. And that's just a place for you to be together as a family, talking and enjoying each other's company. And we have discovered that while the rest of the house seems to be a silent zone for at least our senior, at the dinner table, it becomes a whole different thing. We talk, we laugh, we break down our days, and it's amazing how much communication happens just at the dinner table and how long we sit there even after we've eaten. Another thing that we've done is a cell phone contract, and it's a good tool to talk through. This is what we had both of our girls sign before they even got their phones. And that's also been really great because it's not us saying this is what you're supposed to be doing. We just refer them to this contract saying you signed it and this is what you agreed upon. So we don't have to nag them constantly because it's all there in black and white, and they know what we expect of them and the things that are required for them to have their phone. The clear expectations for everyone, including you, it's just a good thing for them to see, even if your kids don't have cell phones yet or they're not old enough, them seeing you now and how much time you spend on your phone and other things is a great model for them. And one thing that some of the research that we did recommended having no phones in the car, which we thought was crazy for our girls, like going on long trips. That's all they do is sit on their phones. But for us driving, it's a good model for them to see, oh, we're not checking text or doing anything with our phones while we're driving. And that's huge for them because they see that at a young age, and they'll call you on it. They call you on the speed limit. They call you on whatever else you're doing once they start noticing those things. So if you're modeling good behavior in the car and at home, then that's it really good for them later on.
Yeah, and a lot of these things, you know, for us, you know, when you get like tweens and teens, they're going to be using cell phones, but the toddlers and younger kids, they're going to be using tablets, and the functionality is pretty much the same. So when you start this behavior and you start these rules early, this cell phone contract that I put together is kind of a comical little joke, you know, but it has all of these clauses that they have to read through and initial each one, and they're specific things like, you know, we have access to their phone at all times. We have all of their passwords. They're not allowed to lock their phone in a way that we can't get to it. You know, certain things like that enforce clear expectations. And these are things that you can start early with your kids with their tablets, you know, because they can do the exact same thing with a tablet. It works almost the exact same way as a smartphone. So really, this is a good thing to start when they're 2, you know, and then by the time they get a phone when they're in their teens, they're already, you know, they have those good foundations enforced. So number 8 on our list is take an interest in their online activities and join with them. Our family is, I think in of the families that I know, we're a little bit unique. We're a gaming family, so we're a bunch of nerds, and we game together, which is something that we started when the girls were younger. I am a gamer, so I do that kind of stuff. Normally, my wife has joined in that stuff, and you know, it has been actually a tremendous thing for us because there's a lot of interaction that happens as a family. We'll sit around the dinner table and we'll be discussing game mechanics as a family, which is weird for other families that I've talked to, but this is something that our family enjoys. So we have our own little Minecraft server at home, and we play together as a family. That counts. It counts as family time. So family game night for us is a little bit differently, you know, works a little bit differently. Sometimes it's a death match between us all, and, you know, and that's just how our family works. But, you know, for us, what it does is it reinforces this idea that mom and dad love our kids. We love the stuff that they're doing, and we're trying to get involved with that. And so, you know, doing that, getting involved with what they're doing, play games with them. You know, if they're sitting on a tablet, sit down with them and watch them play. You know, ask them about that. Get involved with what they're doing. Ask them to tell you about the games that they're playing and how they work, and, you know, how they're trying to win, and all of those things. Those are really, really important. One of the things too that I always do with my girls is anytime they were wanting a new app or something new, I would always download it ahead of time on my phone and see what it was and dig through it. And then I dig through all the reviews online and figure out what was wrong with it or what worked and what was good, and all of those things ahead of time. So I knew before I gave it to my kids what it was. And that's really important. It's important for all of you to do that stuff. You really have to do your homework. And some of it's work and some of it you may not understand, but it's really important.
Okay, so number 7 is help your child navigate and filter information online. Just navigating between fact and fiction. And a lot of times there, especially right now, there's so much stuff going around that the scare tactics and whatnot, they need to be able to find ways to discover what is actually fact and what is fiction. And there's just so much information available to them. And it's our jobs as parents to help filter out the extra noise and for them to know the difference between what is true and what is false. And there are 3 good websites that we use and that are advised for things online and for what's going on in the world. And one of them is that'snonsense.com. And it's a good research for debunking rumors, myths, and fact-checking things, especially like on Facebook or Instagram. The random things that pop up are girls often say things about, oh, they saw this online or whatever, and we direct them to, this is what we found, what we looked into, because we saw that too. And so that's a good thing, that you know what's going around out there, and instead of just immediately sharing it, that you go and check it out and make sure that it is fact before it spreads. And another thing is allsides.com, and that's a news website that has all the different sides of what's happening. That's also something that is more news related and what's going on in the world, and it gives you just the different sides so you can see what the truth is. And then Snopes.com is also something great for Facebook, but also just what's happening, what is actually true, and sometimes the history of it. A lot of times things pop up on Facebook and you think, oh, this is new, but it's something that's been going around since 2009 or something. So it's important to look those things up and be able to stop them before we spread them ourselves, or our kids think, oh, it's got to be fact because it's on the internet. And our girls definitely know that most things on the internet are not true anymore. So they do a lot of fact checking themselves, and it's really encouraging. Our 13-year-old especially does. She loves learning, and so that's one thing that she goes and looks stuff up and figures out where it came from. And sometimes she ends up getting into the history of things too and figuring out where things started. So it's been interesting for her and good for us to just keep the fact part prevalent and knowing that what's actually happening.
Yeah, the idea of growing little skeptics is kind of my thing that we, our girls, really what I want them to do as adults is I want them to be able to look at the world objectively, and to be able to see that stuff and to be able to, do it in such a way that, they understand, what is true and what is false. And it's really important that you start that early. Critical thinking is really important, and it's important in building faith, and it's important in building spiritual values and that sort of stuff, but it's also just important in life. So okay, number 6. So we have teach your child about online privacy. And so this is something we started early when the girls were first started going online. We talk to kids all the time about, don't talk to strangers, and, in the grocery store or around town. But a lot of times we forget that, they get online and they're in this community with anybody, and really it's worldwide, most of these communities. Roblox is a big game out there. I'm sure many of your kids play this game. And it has an enormous online community, and really you don't know who these people are. And so that's one of the challenges of being online in this day and age. We really don't know. So there are things that you can do. And there's an acronym that goes around on the internet. It's called Yappy. And basically it's YAPPY. And things that you don't share with people on the internet. And these are what I've told our girls from the beginning is, even if you think these people are your friends, you still don't share this stuff with them. This is, they're online. You don't share. It doesn't matter. So the first one is why. It's your full name. So we live in the age of phishing, and basically all of these there's a lot of surveys that circulate, and they fish specific information. And these are, some of this stuff is what is used to identify yourself as for like identity stealing and that kind of stuff. So your full name is one, your address, so your physical address, we never have them share that. Phone number is the next one, and then passwords, of course. Any passwords, it doesn't matter if it's a good friend online. I stress this with my girls and their phones. One of the things that happens a lot with teenagers is one teenager will get a hold of another teenager's phone, and then there's a million pictures on it, of them doing crazy things. And so, sharing passwords and that kind of stuff is really important, that they understand that that's something they shouldn't be doing, because you can mess up a lot of stuff when that happens. And then the last one, why, is your plans for the day and your birthday. So basically, a common thing that will be, if people talk about, what are you going to do today? And sharing that kind of information sometimes, especially for younger kids, and this is the truth of the world that we live in, there are predators out there that they fish this kind of information because they want to know where kids are going or that kind of stuff. And so, training them early to just not do that sort of stuff, is a good idea. So there are some like gray areas of things, and this is one thing that you're going to have to do for your family. You're going to have to decide what is right for you and what's not. Some gray areas like opinions on certain things, or likes or dislikes. As your kids get older, they start to be more social, and so there's just things that they talk about online with their friends that you're going to have to talk with them and figure that out for your own family. So that's going to be different for everybody. It's absolutely different for even both of our children. Like one child is so much different than the other one. So yeah.
So number 5 is balancing green time with screen time. And that's basically green time being outdoors, people face-to-face kind of stuff. Just because you have technology doesn't mean you need to use it all the time. And kids really need to know that just because they have a phone, it doesn't need to be in their hand or in front of their face constantly. And just setting limits based on your child and family, and each child is completely different. Ours are almost the opposite in a lot of ways. And so you have to be aware of how each one responds to certain amounts of screen time. And so any of your limits would need to be probably based on the minimum amount. So if you have one kid who does fine with 5 hours and another kid who can only handle about 2, then you probably should think about just doing 2 hours for everyone to just keep that. Because if one kid's on it, then the other kid starts like a magnet moving over toward the screen of the other one. So it just happens. And just encourage any offline interests, things that they like to do, drawing, going outside, playing sports, all that kind of thing, just to balance out the screen time. And one thing that I think that we have encouraged our girls is that the longer you sit on a computer or your phone, you get dehydrated and you forget to drink water. And that's one thing that you end up with headaches and that kind of thing that our girls didn't realize, that is related, because you forget that it dehydrates you faster than just doing other things. So just keeping that in mind, and how much you need to balance that out. And then quality over quantity, that if you're watching something that you're learning, that's one of our girls really loves to learn stuff online. And that's Steve grew up watching Nova and PBS and that kind of thing. And you learn a lot from that information and everything. But how much you are totally lost what I was going to say. Just paying attention to what is actually happening, whether they're playing or talking, or whether they're actually learning on YouTube or wherever else.
YouTube is actually becoming a tremendous resource for learning videos. You know, Adam Savage of Mythbusters fame has his own channel and does all sorts of crazy engineering things. So if you've got a kid who's really into science and engineering, YouTube is really really great for that. There's tons of channels out there for that kind of learning stuff, and so that's actually a higher prior. Like if you can encourage them, if they're going to do screen time, encourage them to do something like that, instead. So, okay, so number 4 we have is help your child understand what is inappropriate behavior online. What does it look like? This is kind of a funny one because we also educate our kids, and we try to teach our kids, how to be nice to each other and share, the whole playground rules sort of things. But then when they get online, for some reason, there seems to be this idea that you can just say and do whatever you want because it's anonymous. And the truth is, it really isn't. The online world isn't anonymous. Things that you do online have just the same consequences as things you do face to face. So, a common term is don't feed the trolls. You can be a person that sows discord online, or you can be a person that sows peace and mercy and justice and love and all of those things as well online. So it's really that's how you want to raise kids. So I often say to our to youth and to kids, if you wouldn't say it to your grandma, then maybe you shouldn't say that online. Your social interactions really should be how you're expected to behave face to face with people. So, being aware of what they're doing online, that's also something that's really, really important and really easy to miss because we give them a tablet or we put them in front of a computer and then we go do stuff on our own, the whole electronic babysitter idea. It's really tempting to do that, but there's a big danger in that because then you're not aware of what they're doing online. And so you really need to be watching what they're doing and how they're interacting with people online. The biggest thing that you can do, especially with really young kids, is modeling good behavior. It's really one of those things that seems like kind of a no-brainer, but how are you supposed to raise a child that you want to be nice online when you're internet raging on Facebook, at somebody else? They see all of that, they watch all of that, and they learn from your behavior. So if you model good behavior online, if you model, being somebody who isn't feeding the trolls and really sowing love online, then they will model that behavior as well. So that's really important.
One of the other things about that is just the cyberbullying and the online predators are really prevalent, and how you respond to them sharing with you things that have happened to them makes a huge difference in whether they continue sharing with you. If you overreact or dismiss it, then they might not share next time that happens to them. So knowing how to respond, first of all, or having a plan for what you will do when they share things like that with you is really important. And we keep using our kids as examples, but our 13-year-old knows how to block people on the servers that she goes on Minecraft, and she also knows how to report them if they continue to be difficult. And so that's really important, especially when they're doing online kind of stuff, which hopefully you'll save till they're a little bit older, but just so they have those tools to be able to say, this is not cool. And if they see people doing it to other people too, that they can step in and report them and know how to do that. And so just keep that in mind, that it's a lot of times we want to overreact because we personally, I want to go mama bear on these people and just say, okay, that's done, you're never going online again. But knowing how to react to them, to encourage them to keep communicating with you. And that goes for in real life too, that if stuff happens at school, that's how you're responding to them and trying to encourage them. Or if you say, oh, I'm sure it's not important. Just encouraging that communication, because they shut down pretty fast when you don't react the way they think you should.
Yeah, that whole modeling thing, it is, and how you react, it's said quite often, 95%, 5%, life is 5% of what happens to you and 95% of how you react to it. And really, there is truth to that, how you react. I really appreciate parents when they teach their kids how to deal with the world instead of protecting them from the world, because they're going to be living in the world. You're not going to be around forever. And raising kids from early ages, and this starts when they're like 1, teaching them how to deal with the world is really, really important. And that, becomes more and more as the online world grows. So, which one were we were? I think that's you. Yeah, that's you. Yeah, you're up.
Remember that you're not alone, and to talk to other parents honestly. While your family may be completely different than other people's family, just getting feedback and seeing questions that are coming up, and we'll definitely get to those at the end. And it's that kind of thing that you talk about, well, this is what worked for our family. And obviously our family is probably a lot of way different than most of your families, especially in age, but also how they deal with things. And you need to be aware of your kids and be able to say, well, that's great that works for your family. This is working for ours. And to be open and honest and saying, I don't think that's gonna work for us. And know that you don't have to be like everybody else. And what works for them may not work for you. And just talk honestly about things that have worked for you and things that haven't. We definitely have messed up big time with some of the things that we've done, and paying for them as the girls get older and learning from them. And we can share those kind of things with younger parents and whatnot. And I know that you even have experience as an adult that you can share, and everybody has different worldviews and different mix that they've come from. That's great to be able to share experiences.
Yeah, I often refer to our youngest child as the backup child, because we as parents, you're going to mess up, you're going to make mistakes, and there's a lot of this stuff that you learn as you go. There's no manual for parenting. I know that there's tons of books out there, but there's no manual. It really doesn't work like that. So, share with each other. Be okay with reading what other families do, but then be okay with not doing those things, and don't feel that pressure that you have to do that, because definitely one size does not fit all. And so that's really important. So number 2 is kids will be kids, and this kind of leads into it. Kids will be kids, and they will mess up. We have this cell phone usage contract that I put together, and there's definitely places on there where my kids are in breach of contract, and so it happens, and be prepared for that, because like we said before, how you react to stuff is really important. The most important thing that your kids need to see is they need to see a parent that loves them at the end of the day. Discipline should happen, but they need to see that a parent loves them. And just know, that mess ups are going to happen. So like the first thing that needs to happen is you need to have clear lines of communication. So they need to understand what the rules are, and you need to understand what the rules are. And if those are clear, if those expectations are clear, then it tends to take care of a lot of problems that way. So you can just say, well, okay, here you go, you messed up, and here are the consequences, and then we'll go from there. Turn mistakes into teachable moments. I have a big saying at home, and I use this with the youth group a lot, is the idea of what have we learned? I actually like to let kids mess up sometimes, because it's an opportunity for us to turn it into a teachable moment. We have the dreaded "I told you so" dance at home that we do, that the kids absolutely like don't want to happen because it's their parents awkwardly dancing, and so that's something that's that you can do. You turn mistakes into something that you can teach with, and they learn from them. That's why we make mistakes, is so that we can learn and so that we can grow. It's not the end of the world, when they make mistakes with technology or any of that kind of stuff, where you make a mistake. Life moves on. So there is one other thing too, is a third one here, that as your kids age, things will change. So like how, rules that you might have when they're 2 don't apply when they're 13. Or when they're 13, rules that you have for them don't apply when they're 18. Rules change, and you need to be flexible and be okay with changing things and moving things around. Maybe renegotiate your contract with them, those kind of things. So, just be aware that, as they age, as they grow, and technology is moving faster and faster and changing as well. So, staying flexible is really important.
So then our number one thing is remember you are in charge. You are the parent, and so you make and enforce the rules. You should have a copy of all their passwords, so you have access to the things that they have access to, but also because they're going to forget them, and they're going to demand that you know them even if you don't know them.
That's right.
Just so they know that you have access to them also. So everything that they do, you can at any time get in and find out what they've been doing. Technology needs to be shown as a privilege and not a right. They demand cell phones, and it was a little bit easier with us because our younger one knew she wasn't getting it until she was 13, because that's what her sister did. And we chose 13 just because that is generally the age that they are allowed to be on Facebook and Instagram. And that's the rules that they have set out. And so it makes it a little bit easier as a parent to say, well, you're not allowed to do that anyway. So you can just kind of put it off for a little bit longer.
That 13 age, that's actually a federal mandate. So it's really actually nice for parents, because you can blame the federal government. You can say, oh, well, it's the government's fault. They say you can't be online until you're 13. So, we'll stick with that rule. And, it's true. That's what we did. And, it works. So.
Kids are really interconnected today, but they need to understand that they have to respect the rules. And that's part of the contracts that we have, that you have rules already set up and they have agreed to them. And they know that if they break the rules, there will be consequences. And those are kind of things that you can already have set out too. And that makes it easier for you as a parent, rather than being the mean telling them no about everything. You say, this is what we have established already, and this is what's going to happen. And so they know that that's already out there and already something that has been written in stone as such. And that everything that you do is done out of love. You want to keep them safe and healthy, and the number one thing that they need to know is that you love them, and the things that they do, the reasons why you have the rules that you have, are because you want to keep them healthy. And our 13-year-old has said that she's really thankful for our no cell phones in the bedroom rule, because she realizes that she would be tempted to be up all night texting, or if you wake up in the middle of the night, to get on your phone. And they know that it's not an option for them because their cell phones are not in there, but that it's not healthy either, that they need their rest. And so that's something that she's appreciated, and it's completely the opposite with our 17-year-old, because that's the worst thing that we've ever done to her, is not let her have her cell phone. So right. It's just that being able to enforce the rules and say, this is what you agreed on, and this is the way that it's going to be.
Yeah, it's really important too, because we hear, you'll hear it all the time from kids where they say, well, but Johnny's family, they let them do whatever, you know, well, that's Johnny's family. Like you know, you're my kid, this is our house, these are our rules. And it's really important to, you know, be consistent and stick with it, and don't feel pressured by what other families do. Do what is right for your household. And, you know, I'm a real strong believer of that, you know, you need to do what's right for you. You know, it's really easy to feel that pressure from everybody else, especially with cell phones. You know, it was hard actually that last year when our youngest daughter was 12, and, you know, our oldest daughter had had a cell phone for years at that point. And, you know, she was really feeling the pressure because all of her friends had phones, and some of them had had them, you know, since they were 9, you know, and, you know, she was feeling a little bit out of place because she wasn't part of these social groups, but we stuck to our guns with that. And so I think that's important, that they know that you're going to do that, and you explain why. So.
And there are differences though, because she definitely would have been more ready for it than the older one. Yeah. And that was kind of what I went through when I was little. My sister always got angry with me because I got to do things before she did, the set times that my parents had said. But it was because I had seen the mistakes she had made. And that's the same thing with our youngest, is that she's seen the mistakes that her sister has made, and she's learned from them. So it's, you can be flexible. And actually our eldest probably would have, she was pushing for her to have a phone too. So you just kind of have to be flexible. And if that's not a hard and fast rule that you want to stick with, then you do what is best for your kids and what's best for your families.
So yeah, that's our list. And, you know, we can handle some questions now. I don't know, Steph, if you want to ask what some of those questions are, and then we can just answer from there. Does that work?
One question that was asking if you would be able to share any examples of the family media contracts.
Yeah.
Be able to share that we could share with the moms to just see what other Christian families are doing for that media contract, and be able to have a starting point to look at, okay, what are all the rules on here? Let me figure out what I want, and have a good starting point for that.
So actually what I can do is I will make a PDF copy of my contract, and I'll send it to Steph, and then she'll make that available for you guys as well. But there are actually many, many contracts that you can look at as examples online. Again, Google is your friend. Common Sense Media, you know, has that stuff. So there are ways in which you can put these things together. We put, you know, I put ours together for our family, for our girls. You know, so this is what I know about our girls, how they're wired, how they think, and so that's how I wrote this contract. Like I said before, it's part joke, part funny, you know, part you know, serious, and you know, we mean most of everything that's on here, you know, but it's, you know, it's written in a way that's a little bit satirical. That's why it's a contract, you know, and lots of small print and that sort of stuff. But it is important, and you know, it's one of those things that they understand.
So should I have my 6-year-old sign it and put a line in there that they can't have a cell phone until they're 13?
Exactly. Yeah. And like I said, you know, some of these things are going to work for you. Some of them aren't. You know, I didn't pull this out until they were 13. So you know, yeah, like you know, like a 2-year-old's not going to know what a contract is, and they're not going to know.
That's why we should have them sign it now.
Right, that's right. Yeah, do it early. Yeah, so it's like, no. Yeah, my mom's been pulling this out since I was 2. Yeah. Yeah, so next question.
We had another question that actually I was asking, and you know, we've heard a lot about YouTube and how people use it to target kids and post things in the middle of kids' videos, and I feel like I can't let my kids on it unless I'm like right next to them.
Right.
But I can't always be right there either, and so I just jump to the reaction of, okay, no YouTube ever, not even kids' YouTube unless I'm right there. But I guess, do you have any specific advice for the strangers conversation that you might have with little kids, 5, you know, 6, maybe that's the age they start to want to do some things on the tablet by themselves, about that online predator and how to have that stranger danger conversation in a different way when it's online?
Yeah, so one of the big things that you can do is really help steer them towards vetted channels, places that are really well known. Like I referenced Adam Savage as the MythBuster guy that does all of his engineering videos, and he has his own channel, and it's monitored, and it's one of those things that it's good, and he's not going to insert weird things into his videos, and things that are questionable. So there are lots of channels out there and lots of YouTubers that are great. But again, do your homework as a parent. You are responsible for your child and what they're viewing. So if you're not comfortable, if you're not familiar with something, maybe watch it with them for a while. Maybe watch that YouTuber. There's a lot of YouTubers out there that are playing games and doing things, and sometimes the chat and sometimes the YouTube community that's around it is unfiltered. And so you need to be careful with that. That's one of those things that you will have to do that work yourself to watch. And I know that takes time. It's a good, nap time activity. Once the kids go to bed, maybe check out a few of the channels and steer your kids towards channels that you find are good. There's a lot, and that's one of the things that you can do as a community, as a MOPS community, help each other find good things for them to watch. Our girls, when they were toddlers, the internet was not in the same space as it is now. So they watched a lot of Disney Channel, but we steered them towards that stuff. And as they got older, we steered them towards games that we knew were okay, and we steered them towards things that we had looked into and really done our due diligence ahead of time. So
and it's amazing how much you can steer steer them away from things by when they're smaller, to just go, ew, gross, like SpongeBob. And our kids never watched SpongeBob because we just said, oh my goodness, that's so stupid. And so they just kind of got that feeling themselves, that how much when they're teeny, they listen to you. And as they get older, that kind of sticks.
Ironically, they're a sponge.
And so just like the things that you're interested in, the more you say, oh, this is so cool. It's like trying to get them to eat their vegetables or whatever. You say, oh, this is so good, this is wonderful. And then they try it and they eat it. And whether they like it or not, that's up to them. But that you encourage them by showing enthusiasm for it too.
Yeah. YouTube is designed to steer people to other videos, to the next video, to the next video, to the next video. So you do need to be aware of that. Just be cautious of that kind of stuff. But
turn off autoplay.
Yeah, turn off autoplay. That's actually a really good advice, because automatically, especially in the YouTube app on phones and on tablets, it's on by default. So make sure you turn it off. You can do that with Hulu as well, Netflix. You can turn off that kind of stuff. So, you can control that sort of stuff. Any next question?
Through, and I don't think we actually have any other questions that I can see. Awesome. Well, thanks everybody. Have a great day. Thank you so much, Steve and Sonia, for joining us today.
Thanks, guys.
Yep, thanks.